Hello students, in the last session we have studied reading inputs from user. In today's session we will discuss iterations. Iterations are also called as loops, which are used when you want to execute some set of statements repeatedly. Python supports different types of iteration statement. Python has a while looping statement. Python has a for loop statement. Python doesn't have a do while loop statement like C, C++ or Java. So there are different iteration statements can also be used in Python programming language. So let's start with iterations. So generic iteration mechanism is shown in the figure down here. Let's look at how iterations work. So iteration statement, it is like a conditional statement. It is like a conditional statement and it begins with test, and if the test evaluates to true, the program executes the loop body once and then goes back to re-evaluate the test. So this is the test condition. If this test condition evaluates to true, the loop body or some set of statements are executed and again it goes back to test the condition. And this happens repeatedly. Repeatedly it will execute this loop body until the statement or until the test condition is false. Once it is false, it will simply come out of this loop and continues execution of the next code block. So this is how the looping statement works. Okay, look at one simple example of while loop, how while loop can be declared and used in Python. We have a variable I with the initial value 1 and we have a while loop here. The conditional part is I is less than 6. The value of I initially it is 1. So 1 is less than 6. And there is a colon at the end of while, and this is important in Python. So this while loop statement should have a colon at the end. If you want, you can include the round brackets for the test condition like this, like you do in other programming languages like C, C++ and Java. This is also allowed in Python. So while in brackets I is less than 6 and colon at the end, then you can include the statements which you want to include inside the while loop. So we have included two statements here and there has to be an indent at the beginning. As I've told you, there are no flower bracket open and close in Python. The block of statements are always created by using indents in Python. So the statement inside the while loop are indented to the right. So we have statement that is print I and next statement that is I plus is equals to 1, which is equivalent to I is equals to I plus 1. So when we execute this particular loop, the output of this loop will be, can you guess the output of this particular loop? Yes, it is simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. See, the condition is I is less than 6. So it will execute till I is equals to 5. When it becomes 6, the loop terminates. So this is how a simple while loop can be used in Python. Okay, next, that is the use of two important statements, that is break and continue in Python. As you have studied about break and continue statements in other programming languages, the meaning of break and continue statements remains same even in Python. With the break statement, we can stop the loop even if the while condition is true. That simply means we can stop the loop in between by using break statement. Whereas with the continue statement, we can stop the current iteration and continue with the next iteration. So that means we can skip some iterations in the while loop by using a continue statement. One example based on break and continue statement is given here. Okay, look at this example first. Similar example which we have seen in the last slide. I is initialized with value 1. Then we have a condition while I is less than 6. Then print I. Then we have one more condition, that is if I is equals to 3. If I is equals to 3, we are executing the break statement. So then outside if indents you need to check clearly. This I plus is equals to 1, it is outside the if, and only break statement it is inside the if condition. Whereas I plus is equals to 1, it is inside the while statement. Okay, looking at this particular loop, can you guess the output? The output of this loop is when I is equals to 1, it will simply print 1. And this condition is false because 1 is not equals to 3. This will become false. So directly it will go to the next statement, that is I plus is equals to 1. I is incremented by 1 here. So I will become 2. Again this condition is evaluated, 2 is less than 6, condition is true. Then it will print 2. Then 2 is equals to 3. No, again I is incremented by 1, I is 3. 3 is less than 6. Condition still it is true, so it will print 3. Again here I is 3 now, 3 is equals to 3, condition is true. If it is true, we are executing break here. So once the break is executed, the control will come out of the loop. So it will simply come out of the loop, and if you have any other statements outside the while loop, those statements are executed. So looking at this, you might have understood that break statement simply aims a loop in between. Okay, the next continue statement example. Look at this example. We have a value, that is I is initialized with 0. Then we have I is less than 6. Then I plus is equals to 1. We are incrementing the value of I here. Then we are checking if I is equals to 3, and if it is equals to 3, we are simply continuing. As I have told you, continue statement simply continues with the next iteration of a while loop. It will not execute the statements after the continue statement. So all the statements after the continue are skipped, and it will simply restart from the next iteration. Okay, look at this code and just guess the output of this particular code. Okay, let me show you the execution of this. Initially I is 0, 0 is less than 6, the condition holds, so this is true. If it is true, we are incrementing the value of I. So initial value was 0, now we have incremented it by 1, so I is equals to 1 for the first time. And 1 is equals to 3, this condition is false. So as it is false, it will simply come out of if, it will not execute if, it will directly go to the next statement, that is print I. This print I, it is not inside the if condition, it is inside the while loop, remember. So directly it will go to print I, so it will print 1. Second time when the condition is executed, so again it goes to while. Second time I is 1. Initially it was 0. Now it is 1. So 1 is less than 6. Still it is true. If it is true, again increment the I. It was 1 in the last iteration. Now it is 2. Now 2 is equals to 3. Still it is false. As it is false, it will go to print I. That is, it will print 2. Again it will go back to while. Now the value of I, last time it was 2. So 2 is less than 6. Still it is true. If it is true, increment it. Now the value of I is 3. So 3 is equals to 3. Yes, it is equals to 3. If it is equals to 3, this time it will execute the continue statement. And when it executes the continue statement, the control directly transferred back to the next iteration. It will not execute the statements below the continue. Below the continue we have a print statement, remember, print I. That is not executed. Directly it goes back to while and the next iteration is executed. The next iteration will be I is less than 6. The last value of I was 3. So 3 is less than 6. Yes, the condition is true. If it is true, increment the I. Now I will become 4. 4 is equals to 3. Condition is false. False, so print I. So one loop is skipped. It is not printing the value 3. Then after that it will print again the value that is 5 in the next iteration. And when I will become 6. I will become 6. Then it will stop. It may print even the value 6 here. So I was 4. It was printing 4. When I will become 5. Here it will print 5. It goes back. Again 5 is less than 6. The condition is true. Then I is incremented. I will become 6 here. And it will print 6 because 6 is not equals to 3. And when I will become 6, 6 is less than 6, the condition will be false and it will come out of the loop. So this is what we will get at the end. So here we are only understanding how continue statement works. Continue simply skips an iteration and continues with the next iteration in the loop. Okay, this is about break and continue statement. Okay, that's it for today's session.